Is this thing on now? Let's go, baby. Little scalp a lot. We already know we get into the review, man. Let's go, baby. Let's talk about it. Man, sometimes I just space out, man. I'm not really good at this. But I hope somebody enjoys this because, like, again, I do these videos for myself to review, to kind of go over my day, and give myself a fresh look. And if I just completely suck at making videos, that's fine. But I'm going to keep doing this, man. Um, Pretty good day. Opportunity wise, again, I'm still getting my feet wet with my um, prop firm evaluation. So, gonna kind of just drag this over and go over how the day went. Again, I'm not trying to over focus on my results because I'm just trying to be the best trader I can be in terms of my executions and my discipline, and I'm just gonna let the results come as they will. But just to take in a quick look here, I did end the day a little bit red, which was fine because I did end up going a little bit red on my eval by about 150 bucks. This was actually sitting at about close to 150 earlier, and I was like, you know, I didn't really like that. But I mean, what kind of sucks here is that I did have a trade earlier that didn't count because I have to have at least 10 cents of share per profit. I'm sorry, 10 cents per share of profit on my positions for them to count. So, as you can see very early on, I started on a small loss, but then that next trade I was able to scrap away a little winner, and it didn't freaking count. And I was super frustrated, man. I feel like anybody would be frustrated. But I get it. This was actually a pretty decent win. I had scaled some over 10 cents, but I had to cut some of it, break even, and ultimately it was only 9 cents a share of profit on this trade right here. And they did not, and anytime it's highlighted in pink like this didn't count towards my P&L. That was kind of frustrating. As you see, I took two bigger size losses in a row. Was able to have a good trade on MNTS, which we'll go over. And at open, BSLK, which will be the highlight of the day, that thing went up over 500% today. Fucking banger. We're going to go over that. But yeah, I'm going to keep this. Let's just start off and see. So I didn't really get to have my dashboard open on my main screen. So when I was recording, you're going to see a lot of my old Weeble, but I'm still going to talk through kind of how I was trading. And go figure, BSLK was actually the first trade of the day. Jumping into the recording here, this was kind of what I saw in pre-market going into 7 a.m., which was a pretty nice 5-minute setup here. Not typically something I'd trade just because, like I said, I like that very first 5-minute pullback after ramping volume came in. And at 7 a.m., this thing just freaking ripped. It just ripped. And yeah, there wasn't really much chance to get in right here. I think Ross Cameron was on this trade. Looking back at his video from the day, that man slapped his position freaking like right here, and maybe that spiked it, but that man's a god. So, anyways, looking at this, I was still willing to trade the next pullback on it. Okay, so this is where I was hopping into my prop firm trading account right here. This was that 5-minute going into 7 a.m. and I was looking for the next pullback. So as you can see, it put in a nice 5-minute pullback right here. We're starting to flag on the 5-minute. Again, this is after ramping volume came in. This thing did have news. And yeah, it was looking pretty good. It wasn't anything crazy. I think it was just going on earnings or something like that. But still, this was the top gainer for the morning. It was pretty much the most obvious stock other than ATNF. And I was willing to play ball on this one. It fit the criteria. Had a low float. Yeah. Let's kind of see. I think, okay, so this was my first trade on it right here. Which I think was good. You can see that we had that first pullback, but this is more of a 1-minute pullback because It's only bouncing off the 1 minute 8 right here. I kind of like seeing it come down to the 5 minute 8 EMA, which is very close to the 1 minute 20 purple line, like I've gone over in my videos. I like to generally see it come down and test that area because that's usually a lower risk, deeper pullback. And once it put these 2 wicks in right here, you know, it kind of held this level in that first 1 minute candle to make a new high on this candle is generally where I like to take my position, and that is what I did here, which I think was the proper way to take this. I don't know if this was my first. Okay, yeah. Again, I'm trying to make sure that I'm staying used to this new chart, but I was kind of bouncing around using like my Webull to like kind of help me. But yeah, this was my first trade, and I ended up stopping out right here. Because again, like if I'm using this as my reason to get in, and the reason that I got in was because we held the price right here, I don't want to hold under my reason. So that kind of just standardized like when I cut them, and I think right here that I did. Let's see. I think I did. Yeah, and unfortunately, it bounced right there. So I think I cut this. Yep, I cut the trade there, and like literally immediately it bounced. And I'm trying to look for, you know, like as I go through these reviews, I'm trying to pick out, you know, any errors that I may have made. And I guess technically we didn't break that level. So maybe I could have seen if that, because this was 384 and we came down, tested 384, but let's kind of go back and see maybe if I can see, looking at the level 2 here, which would have, I probably should have been looking more at that. We didn't really see any prints of 384 here. So I think I should not have cut that there. I think sometimes I get too caught up looking at the chart, and maybe I need to verify on the level 2 and the time and sales over here that we're actually breaking down at that price, because as you just saw here, I could have probably held on to this and not cut it right there, because I ended up taking another trade right after. You see we're printing 385s here, but no 384, no 383s, no 382s. Once I see that, I could probably get out. But right now, this is signaling that it held up there. You see some buyers came in right here too, so I'm glad I'm looking at this now. Probably, you know, like I said, pick out those little lessons, man. There's always something to learn, man. Always something to learn. And what you've seen right there is I probably should have been paying more attention to the level 2 and the time and sales, instead of just looking at the chart, because the chart can fake you out too with these, especially on the 1 minute. Let's see, because I did take another trade on it. This was the one that didn't count. Yep, so once it double bottomed right here, now we have 1 tap, 2 taps, still a valid risk. And once it came up and made a new high on the 1 minute again, I went ahead and tried it again. My average was a little bit higher on this one. And now you see we're starting to, you can kind of imagine that there's like a downtrend right here from the wick here, wicks right here. A good area to break is either these or these previous resistance points. Simple targets. As you can see, we came up to that first. I had 500 shares again, so I risked 500 on the first trade, lost on that one. I kept the risk the same on this one. Finally, we're starting to go in my direction. I wanted to take half off at this 405 level, but that's where I kind of, why this trade didn't count, because I need to calculate that, hey, I need at least 10 cents a share of profit on my trades in this eval. But there we go. I'm looking at the tape here. Now I'm looking at the tape because I want to see 405 prints coming through, and then I can take some profits off the table, little base hit, and then ultimately look for a squeeze up into the top of the flagpole. So right here, I don't know what was wrong with my orders were being stupid, but I went ahead, took half off the table here. Good idea. We started to get a push here. I probably should have took some more, man. Yeah, this would have been a better place to probably take some more off the table. But I kind of wanted to see it. I was kind of giving it some room to squeeze through, because I mean there's nothing else here. We just broke this resistance right here. You got a little bit right here. In theory, we have a good chance of just snapping right up to highs right here, and that's kind of what I was looking for. But ultimately, we started to pull back again. And as you see, I'm kind of like trying to bounce through the charts just to get my eyes used to the new platform. I think I ended up stopping out on the rest. But yeah, long story short, just going back, those were these two trades right here early on. That's around 7 a.m. on BSLK. So you see, like that trade that we just went over was a decent little play. It just didn't count, man. So unfortunately, I was sitting red on the day. And let's go to ATNF because I think I have some. I definitely have some things I could have improved on ATNF, which was a runner from yesterday, top gainer from yesterday at the open. And this morning it gapped up. Yep, see, like this morning at I believe 4 a.m. it gapped up even more. Pulled back most of the pre-market going into 7 a.m. And now what I liked is that we started to curl and volume started to come back in. As you can see here, look at this increase in volume. We're almost trading what we were trading over here. So I was interested in this. I'm like, okay, you know, it pulled back all morning. Now we're coming into 7 a.m. where more traders are on and things like that. We're getting an increase in volume. BSLK is kind of chilled out at the moment. And that was my reasoning for taking this trade. It was a day two continuation, which is valid. You know what I mean? I guess I'd say I probably do better on something that's fresh, that has breaking news. But ultimately, I thought this was worth giving a try. As you can see, it had a nice grind up right here. Again, volume was starting to increase. More volume was coming in. And I wanted to take the first 5-minute pullback on it, which you could see that we're starting to get right here. Anticipating for it to come in to the volume weighted average price here, the VWAP, and the 5-minute 8 EMA, which is about the purple line. You can see how close they are. Again, I use the 1 minute to kind of zoom in on the 5-minute, and I usually try to take my trades off of the. I mean, I look for my timing on the 5-minute, but most of the time I'm really looking for my entries off the 1. As you can see, we're pulling back here. It could have went here too. This was kind of like more of like a 1 minute type of 3-bar look. If this wanted to go and put in a 5-minute 3-bar, which is pretty much a move up, one candle to pull back, and this next 5-minute candle rips for new highs. As you can see, it's starting to push green right here. That happens too. I haven't really incorporated that into my strategy, but I was actually kind of expecting it to do that here. But I really wanted it to, yeah, you see it started to push right there. I thought we were going to get that 5-minute 3-bar where this candle just breaks this high right here, but it continued to pull back, which was good for me because I was looking for it to come and test the 5-minute 8 down here. But you're not going to see my trade on it because I had this pulled up the whole time. But let me see where I finally took an entry on this. 748. That's where I bought. Let's see where we're at here. Yep. So what I did is now that we tap that level again, so you can see we kind of have another a double bottom right here. Now we find the 1 minute 20's caught up a little bit. I decided to take an entry risking. That was about $16 right there. This level was about $16. Let me see if it. And especially since this next 5-minute candle just opened, I thought that I had a pretty decent timing. But I think the error on this one was it wasn't like a first 1 minute candle to make a new high trigger entry. I kind of anticipated this level to hold. And ultimately it broke down through that level right there. And on this candle right here, I stopped out on that trade. Because again, if it breaks the low of the pullback that I used as a risk off, I just get out of the trade. And I did get a little slippage on this one because it was a higher price stock, whatever. And yeah, I ended up losing $83 on that one. I had 200 shares. I was risking about that $16 psychological level, which was about where those 2 wicks were. So I was risking about 30 cents a share. Multiply that by 2 for 200, and I was risking about $60. And with slippage, I got out at 1588. So yeah, but looking back on this trade, trying to review it, I didn't really have a signal to enter other than I was, I guess, guessing that we were going to hold this level. But as you can see, I probably would have had, because you can see we're continuing to pull back. Like, that's a signal to me that if we're not making new highs on the 1 minute, we might continue to pull back. And I think I took a loss on this one, not because it was a bad trade or because my idea was bad. I just think that I do better when I wait for that very simple confirmation that trend is starting to reverse to the upside, right? We moved up, we're pulling back now, it's cooling off, new buyers are stepping up, so we can potentially continue higher. But since I didn't wait for that new 1 minute candle to make a new high, which is that signal that we're probably starting to move up again, we're probably going to keep pulling back most of the time. And that's where I feel like I went wrong on this, because I jumped the gun on that. And you can see we continue to keep pulling back and even broke down below the 5 minute ADMA and even tested the 5 minute 20, which kind of at that point, it's kind of like, not my bread and butter anymore. But honestly, a better entry would have been right here, because you see that once we made that big dip, we had a nice bullish candle come in, and then the first 1 minute candle to make a new high. And then it started to reverse a little bit. That, even if this would have worked or not, this would have been a better entry, because I would have waited for the pullback to finish and then have some simple confirmation that we're starting to go in the other direction, not guessing. That's where I used to mess up a lot. And I hope I'm not complicating this concept, but it's super simple, but it's super important. I need to take a drink. I'm talking a lot. Okay. I want to break this down again, because I'm going to show it to you on BSLK, which is the biggest runner of the day. It went crazy. You already know that I like the 5 minute flag pullback, and kind of why. Like, I kind of want to break it down again. This for me too. I want to like break it down to the simplest form. I'm a long trader, and I like the stocks that have high momentum. Why do they have momentum? From breaking news, they're getting volume, blah, blah, blah. And that's kind of what you got here. The reason that this one started to get some momentum was because it squeezed so much yesterday. It had such a big run yesterday, and it gapped up again this morning. So people maybe are expecting it to go even higher. And it pulled back all morning, and now we're starting to get volume come in. I want this to go higher, but I don't want to get a bad entry, so we wait for these nice pullbacks to get a low risk entry and ride the wave higher. Now, what I used to do is on the 5 minute, I'd kind of guess where it's going to dip, because again, this is pulling back. We can clearly see that price is pulling back, but I had to stop guessing where it's going to pull back, because let's say that I entered off the 1 minute 20 EMA here just because I want to buy it when it taps that, expecting that price will go in the other direction. But what if it doesn't? You know what I mean? We can come test like it does here and then continue to pull back. And let's say I have an entry here. Where am I stopping out? Maybe VWAP. We broke right through VWAP. You know what I mean? So I kind of I'm gearing into a direction where I'm watching it pull back, and I'm waiting for confirmation that we are already starting to go back to the upside, and then I can join in on that. As opposed to me trying to guess the bottom. I get an entry up here, and then I end up cutting the trade, and then it reverses in my favor. That's freaking frustrating, man. That's the most frustrating thing ever. So, I know I rambled on a little bit about that, but the mistake here was that I didn't wait for that confirmation that price was starting to go back up. And as you can see here, we made a pretty nice dip before that happened. And if I was going to take a trade on this, which at this point, which with this big of a dip, it probably wasn't the highest quality setup anymore. But I would have been better off risking the low of this pullback and entering right here at this yellow line once that 1 minute candle finally made a new high, because you can see that price was starting to reverse, and then maybe you can look for that push. Anyways, that's all I want to talk about on ATNF. Real quick on the next trade, XFOR. This was my next loser. Lost about $50 on this one. Um, I think with this one, um, so this one was halted all after hours yesterday. And then I think it finally dropped news this morning, and as you can see, it had a good reaction to the news. I was looking for that first 5 minute flag. As you can see, this kind of made like a big move and kind of extended right here. Kind of got extended. Um, I think maybe it would have been better if I caught it like right here and then we made a 5 minute pullback to make a move higher, but this kind of grinded and then ripped so hard that maybe it was just too extended. And ultimately, this 5 minute flag just didn't work. But I was being a little bit more patient on it, especially since we just went into to 8 a.m. where the chart goes all crazy. Let's see. As you can see, we're finally coming into that 5 minute A right here. I'm just going to keep this one shorter because this was a pretty quick loss here. Starting to bounce off the 5 minute A right here. I was waiting for that first 1 minute candle to make a new high. Didn't get it there. I think I'm still waiting. Price is breaking a little more. Actually, I think I might have took a trade there. Yeah, actually, I think I took the loss here. So I think I anticipated. But let's see here. That 1 minute candle never made a new high. I'm not saying that's the telltale sign that we're going to go higher, but it's a good indicator that we're starting to break to the upside, and you want to see that push and volume start to come in, and we just didn't get that. So I think I took an entry anticipating for this to start moving to the upside after a nice pullback, and we just didn't get it. I stopped out quick on this one. Not too much drama on that trade. And just trying to maybe pick out an error on this one. I think maybe it just made such a big move already that, and yeah, that's probably that. I don't want to go over that one too much. But MNTS was my next trade, and this was a really good trade. Made about $82 on that trade. Took 500 shares. This was a good one. Now, why was this trade good? We had breaking news. It was something with NASA or something like that. And this thing had really nice volume. So, had a low float, news catalyst, high relative volume, and yeah, I was ball game right here. You see, we didn't make like a crazy move yet. This was only up like 30%, so that's good because that gives us more room to potentially go higher, as opposed to like this ripping and ripping and ripping, only going up, and then it gets too extended for people to want to buy a pullback on it. I think immediately this thing started to pull back. I didn't take this trade right here. Again, this is, I think, more of a 1 minute setup because we didn't really come close to the 5 minute 8 here. But this was when I was interested in it. Once we started to pull back again. Especially here. Now, this is a real nice deep pullback. Yeah, this isn't a great looking candle, but this is giving us a nice pullback and a good opportunity to take a stab. So this is where I kind of was anticipating that we might hold. I'm kind of just like getting ready. Waiting for that 1 minute candle to make a new high. This was much better. Again, you see we're starting to pull back on that 5 minute. The very first 5 minute pullback. We're testing that level again, which I believe was 142s. It's holding, it's holding. We're starting to get a nice wick here. And then price is starting to come up and look like it wants to break that 1 minute candle to make a new high right here, which would be 148. You can see we got a little wall at 150 we're going to have to get past. But boom, right there, I took an entry. That's a better trade. Because we came down, we tested the area of the 5 minute A. You see it's not always going to touch perfectly, but it's in the area. Touches, bounces a little bit, touches again, and then breaks the new 1 minute candle to make a new high. That's a good entry. And I took that one, risking the low of that double bottom right there. Very clear risk, clear entry. And now we're looking for new highs right here. Top of the flagpole. Simple. Start to get a nice push. Here we go. So this is my platform now. I'm glad I switched back to this. I'm sitting on 500 shares of this thing. Very clear risk off. Got a decent entry, risking 6 cents per share. And of course, I had to look for at least 10 on this. We started to pull back a little bit more, ended up holding up. Now we're getting a little breakout here, breaking through the VWAP. That's nice. Still waiting here. I still have a full position. Boom. I think right here on this nice push right here. Starting to reverse. Price is moving up. Getting close to that target. I took half off here. And on this one, I definitely wanted that 165s. And look at that beautiful breakout right there. Scale the rest out there. Bingo! Look at that. What I loved about this one is just I was more patient because you could see it here. Right, this was a nice move from the breaking news. It made a nice pullback, no denying that. Could have traded this, but you don't really have like that first 1 minute candle to make a new high with a low risk like you do here. But then it gives like this is more of that 5 minute pullback. It puts in a clear risk off, very clear risk off. You don't want to see price come down and break through there. It would just break the setup. That's why I call this a very clear risk. It's almost too clear. And the confirmation that we are possibly starting to reverse back to the upside is once that first 1 minute candle makes a new high. I'm sorry I say it so much. That's my trigger. We pulled back a little bit more here, and ultimately it reversed to the upside and broke the new high right here. That was a good trade. All right. This one actually ended up going higher, but I know this is a super long video, but again, it's mostly for me. But I was not able to record my trade on BSLK, but I'm gonna go over it real quick on my platform. Let me go ahead and open it. Where is it? Okay. Man, what a review today. If you're watching this, just fast forward it, man. I don't think I'd want to sit here and hear myself talk for 30 minutes. Okay. Last trade, I swear. It's going to be a little different, but completely still valid in my opinion. Okay, so this thing went bonkers. Let's switch to the 5 minute here. So this was BSLK that we traded earlier in the morning. Now, I missed all this action here at the open. But man, did this thing put in a picture perfect 5 minute flag right here. As you can see, we almost I traded it in this area over here. Oh. This is where I initially took my my pre-market trades in this area right here. As you can see, after that, it just pulled back all the way into open. But at open, it got this big surge in volume. Look at the big volume that came in here. That got people interested. Now let's look at the 1 minute real quick to kind of see how we could have played that. So this is that big surge at the open. We broke through pre-market highs. We broke through pretty much everything. And then it put in this nice 5 minute flag right here, which you can see on the one. There's that first like 1 minute pullback. Let me go back to here. Yeah, long story short. Oh my gosh, what's going on here? Okay. Oh, this was the 5 minute. Yeah, so that was that first 5 minute flag at the open. It was freaking beautiful. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. I messed up. I wanted to zoom in on the... Okay, here we go. Like I said, I'm still getting used to this. Okay, here's the zoom in. This is the 1 minute time frame on that 5 minute flag right here. This is that very first 5 minute flag at the open. So you can see we're doing shit. Volume cranked right here. Nice 1 minute flag. Broke out. Volume was even higher. And then this thing pulled back on the 5. How could we have traded this? Was you could see it came down and tested the 5 minute 8 in this area right here. About the 1 minute 20. And then boom, that first 1 minute candle to make a new high was right here. let's just say 394s. So the low of this one was 386. You could have had an entry of 394. I don't know if this candle started low and then opened, but either way, we did not break this low. So according to plan, even if we came down and tested this, we can hold as long as we're not breaking this level. As you can see, it tried to push, it consolidated for a little bit, didn't come down and break our risk level, and then boom, massive breakout. 1 minute flag, breakout. 1 minute flag, breakout. And this thing just went on a crazy run. And I traded it in here, so this is not typically what I would do, because this, of course, this isn't like the very first, but I'll show you here. This thing had a very clear downtrend going on right here. So when I first seen it at the open, I missed all this. But I seen that it had this downtrend right here. Very clear downtrend. And when I seen this break through it, I was interested because we were pulling back this whole time here. This is almost like a fresh move in my opinion. It just broke through this downtrend. It's pulling back. It came down, tested it, and then ended up moving for new highs. And I kind of want to zoom in on the 1 minute here to show how I traded this, because this was a nice example of being patient for that first 1 minute candle to make a new high after it was pulling back. Okay, so you can see it pretty clearly here. Very clear downtrend here. This was the top of the new highs for the day. Very clear downtrend going on here. We had some support here. It came down, tested that support again, and then it instantly just ripped right here. And I missed this. I was watching this. And as you can see, once that 1 minute candle made a new high here, it broke out of this downtrend, made a nice move, and I was interested on this first pullback. After a fresh move, remember we're in the downtrend right here, it broke through this downtrend. I wanted to grab that first 5 minute pullback after that move, looking for it to continue higher, and that's exactly what we got. And what I was very happy with is that I was very patient, kind of taking my mini lesson from ATNF earlier, that I maybe got in a little bit too early. And when this thing was pulling back, I was just waiting. That didn't make a new high. Nope. It came to test the 1 minute 20, but it didn't make a new high. I was waiting because look, this thing put in a pretty deep pullback. And I was being so patient here. And honestly, the more this pulled back, the more confident I was getting, because I was getting a lower risk. You know what I mean? I was waiting for this dip to settle, and it finally did right here. And I think I took a stab. I got stopped out for just a second, but as soon as that 1 minute candle made a new high, I got back in. And as you can see, we made a nice reversal right here. I think I ended up taking most of my profits into this area. But man, this thing, as you can see, went crazy. It just went crazy. And just my little trade that I made in here was a very small picture of what it ended up doing for the day, ripping up to almost 20 bucks. But yeah, I think that's enough time on this video. But this was a valid trade, man. It broke out of the downtrend, fresh move on the 5 minute, put in a nice 5 minute flag. I was patient, waited for the dip to settle, and get some signal that we were starting to curl to the upside to join this momentum. Even though I didn't catch this whole move, you always don't have to. Guys, I'm going to take these lessons that we just dug out of these trades and implement them going into the rest of this week. And we're going to see what happens. Peace.